Welcome back, everybody, to my Grandmaster Round Robin campaign. It's currently 11:40 at night. This recap will be mildly less energetic than others. I am very tired. And to be honest, I didn't know how to really name the video because the truth is that I was not feeling particularly great after the game. So we're going to look at the game. And then we are going to learn and laugh and love and... Okay, anyway. My opponent was Andrew Hong. I played him in 2017. I lost that game back when he was in FM. And he has a very similar repertoire to Magesh, who I played a couple of rounds ago. Before the game, I was like, I'm not going to do a whole lot of prep. We'll see what happens. He played knight f6. And I can play knight f3 here. And he probably would have played this. Maybe he would have played c5. I don't know. But I played knight c3, and he really surprised me here by playing the move e5. Now, on the second move, this is not like some sort of big surprise, but he doesn't really play this move. And I started thinking at the board, I'm like, is he looking to play into something? Like, if you prepare for me, I play this move here all the time. And I play e3. This is what I play. So I thought for a little bit, and I played g3. And in my mind, I was like, well, he's got two choices. He can play d5 right now, or he can play c6 and d5. And I don't have any games of this in the database, so I'm like, boom, I got him. And he did start thinking. He thought for a while here, actually. And then he, and I figured he wasn't going to go d5, because he doesn't have a lot of experience in these positions. Played c6 to try with the intention of going d5. And at this point, I was like, okay, I know I can just play normal stuff, like bishop to g2, but that allows d5, right? Now, I can go knight f3 here, which is a common idea nowadays, to attack this pawn and actually jump in the center and even rotate around over here. I knew that I had this option as well. I decided to play d4, which is just very, very critical, and trying to kind of expose black's setup for being silly. You're like, well, I'm gonna have my queen out, and you can't play knight c6 because you already put a pawn there. And then he played d5, and I played bishop to g2, and he played bishop to e6. So we're fighting for this square. Now, at this point, I could not, for the life of me, remember my notes. You see, I normally get to this position like with a different move order. So e5, g3, knight f6, bishop g2, c6, this. And the difference being that I haven't moved this knight yet. I don't actually know if it's any good. I started thinking like, normally my knight is on f3 in my notes. So back to the actual game, I was like, well, is there any advantage to not having the knight on f3? I was like, well, I can play knight to h3 and try to play knight f4 and get this bishop. Of course, he can take. And he can take and lose his right to castle, and then I will get the bishop pair. I will be down a pawn, but I will spend the middle game winning it back with my superior activity and my very strong bishop. And then I was like, what am I doing? Why am I losing a pawn? Why don't I just take? And theory is taking. I did not remember this, and it looked a bit strange to just grant his knight access to c6, but it turns out that this is just theory. It's not better for white or anything. You put your queen right over here. d4 is not possible because of all the tactics associated with this knight. Like, I just take, and if queen takes, then check, and I win the queen. So I could just play queen a4 and like castle, and I play against an isolated pawn, and the position is just equal. But for some reason, I was really trying to make the fact that I haven't played knight f3 work, so I went for this pawn sacrifice variation, which results in me getting the bishop pair. But I'm like, okay, how am I going to create counterplay on these pawns, right? I have a super powerful bishop. He probably wants a setup where his king is somewhere out, the knights join together, and he plays b5 and something like this. And what I want, I'm trying to figure out what I want. How do I get to this pawn? I can either put a rook on c1 to pressure it, or on d4 to pressure it. Maybe, and then this is where I started getting what I thought was creative. I played bishop g5. I thought I was doing something smart here. If he takes my knight, it's two bishops versus two knights. I thought I would be happy here. Computer absolutely doesn't believe in my position, but the computer doesn't know chess, so it's fine. So knight d7, and here I came up with a plan. And my plan was to play number one, short castle, Then when he moves, which he did, my plan was to play the move rook f to c1. That's b1. Rook f to c1. And I thought it was really clever. I was like, you know what? I'm going to put some pressure on c4 by moving my knight to some square. I don't know where, but we'll figure it out. And then in the future, I'm going to play b3 if that pawn gets defended, and I'll open up my other rook. So I'm going to have 2 rooks on these open files, and that's the way we're going to put some pressure on my opponent. If he ever plays b5, c6 is very weak. I was like, we're chilling, we're doing stuff, we're good, everything is great, we're awesome, we're really good at chess. He plays rook c8. I'm like, okay, so clearly he wants to play b5 now because his c6 pawn would have otherwise had no guard. And I sat there and I started thinking, okay, number one, I can go a4. If I play a4, he cannot play b5. The other idea of a4 is I can drop my knight back to a2, attacking the bishop and the c4 pawn. So a4 very much comes into consideration. If he plays like a5, for example, well, he'll never get b5. So then I can just do this, and this just that doesn't work, because what's going to happen is he's just going to end up losing the bishop pair. And I can always bring the bishop back, which is one thing to remember. Like, my bishops are so quick, and he can't trade rooks with me. Like, I'm happy. So a4 was the thing that I definitely considered. I couldn't come up with the move for him, which was kind of disturbing at this point. And I don't actually know why I didn't play this. Maybe a6 to play b5 also doesn't make any sense because knight a2. Yeah, to be honest, I don't know why I didn't play a4. But a4 was a move that I considered. Of course, everything looks different when you're recording the recap. Then I considered the move knight to e4, which pressures this, but that's not really the intention. The intention is to attack this pawn. And if he plays b5, I was like, okay, let's try to play my b3 idea, or my my a4 idea. But I didn't quite see it here. I was like, this doesn't, I don't know, I'm not guaranteed anything here. Why would I block my own bishop? So I discarded knight to e4. And then that left me with knight d1, and then knight d1 kind of made sense to me because I was like, I'm attacking c4 and I can go get another attacker on that pawn, and like my position is really nice. I played knight d1, he played b5. And so here, I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, I have a4 and I have b3. My plan was all this time to play the move b3. I was like, okay, I gotta play b3. Boom, there's b3. And then when he played knight b6, I realized my entire plan wasn't working. My plan against this approach was to play this move. And when I calculated this all the way back here, I was like, rook c1, he'll make a move, I'll play knight d1, knight e3, b3, I'm gonna be in good shape. I completely failed to realize that even though I am attacking this, and I looked at the move bishop d2, of course, but I saw that I could check him, and he would take, and I would take his bishop, and I was like, all right, I mean, I have enough pressure here, I'm definitely going to win the pawn back. I completely forgot he has an in-between move. Instead of bishop d2 now, he would just use danger levels. He would attack my bishop, even though I have sufficient attackers on this. I have to take or my bishop gets trapped, and after pawn takes f6, I have a problem, because even though I can finally get my pawn back, now he plays this move, he hits both my rook and my knight, and this is lost for white. I mean, this is just a completely lost position. And I was like, oh my god, how did I just completely forget about h6? I just totally forgot about this move. And I had a feeling that I was about to do something stupid. Like, when it's coming. I know myself. I knew something stupid because I messed up, and I had a feeling that right around here I could maybe still hold on. And the engine, is suggesting some very, random rook c2 to prevent this. And the truth is that I would have had to play the game down a pawn, and I was not going to be winning my pawn back. That entire plan just completely failed. And if I went back to e3, which of course I did see, to just attack this knight, I figured he just goes here. And if I take, he opens up everything and defends his pawn, so that doesn't work. The engine gives some obscure ways of not completely losing on the spot. I did this and then played a4, and my logic was well, he has to guard his bishop because my goal is to take and then take on a7. So he has to go a5, and then here I'll figure it out. The problem is that I did not. I did not figure it out. I played the move e4, and my idea of e4 is that after h6, I would, well, I have bishop f1 is my idea. I want to open the diagonal for my bishop, and then even if he attacks me, I calculated this, and then bishop f1 was the point. I was like, okay, he's going to go back, and then, I don't know, we'll figure something out. I'm down a pawn, but life goes on. And then, of course, you know, one mistake follows the other. I realized right after playing e4 that when I take on d2, he has no need to go back. And if in this position I play bishop f1, he will just come forward and threaten my pawn and a fork. And I'm completely lost. And to be honest, I'm already losing like around move 16. I decided to play a few more moves. It's, yeah, he jumps in, he attacks my rooks have to stay together, and here he converted very confidently. He brought his rook, so the idea is to take my knight and then go rook down to d1. He's freezing the pawns here for now. It was nice how he finished it off. I did see it coming. And now by far the cleanest thing to do, as long as he saves his queenside pawns and pushes them, he's going to be fine. So he finds a nice force sequence. He attacks my rook, I go here. Knight e2 is not a fork because of my rook, but he can attack with tempo. And then here he finds another very nice move. He does not play passively. He finds an aggressive knight move. I have to move over. Right, it doesn't really matter. And this is completely lost for white. And his pawns just go down the board. I played a few moves just... he had like 5 minutes on the clock, so I don't know, in case some disaster happened, but... yeah, in this position I resigned. Honestly, a very frustrating game, very frustrating, and I'm very upset with the fact that I have posed like no problems whatsoever in 3 games with the white pieces. You know, maybe I should have played a 4 knights English, knight f3. At least I should have not sacrificed the pawn for absolutely zero reason, just trying to like play out of my preparation and try to improvise over the board. You know, there was a devil on my shoulder yelling at me to not play this move, but I just didn't see the logic of playing into an isolated pawn position, which I had never seen or experienced before, and it turns out that it's just theory. So, yeah, I'm very unhappy with this game. Very, very unhappy, and it probably translates into the energy of the recap. But this is honestly how tournaments go. Yeah, I can definitely do much better. And the good news is Andrew is hopefully on pace to make another GM norm, which would be his 3rd, and he would also have the GM rating. So if he beats me on the way to his title, you're welcome, Andrew. But on a serious note, yeah, awful garbage. Tomorrow we're going to try to bounce back. I am going to go get some rest and talk to Lucy and take a shower. And yeah, chess sucks, but we're all in this together.